My sister laughed at me in front of 200 people, called me a loser, said I'd never amount to anything. I stood there, silent, like I always did. But this time, I wasn't silent because I was scared. I was silent because I was about to change everything. You see, I had a secret. And it was the kind of secret that could bring an entire party to its knees. My name is Amelia, and for as long as I can remember, I have lived in the shadow of my older sister, Chloe. It wasn't a shadow cast by a tall tree or a grand building, but by a very loud, very beautiful, and very cruel sun. Chloe was the sun, and I was just the little planet that was forever trying to orbit her without getting burned. But I always got burned. It was the story of my life. Let me be clear, I am not telling you this story because I want pity. I am telling you this because I need you to understand. I need you to understand the foundation of a life that was built on quiet tears and swallowed anger. I need you to understand why, on a certain warm June evening, surrounded by the smell of barbecue and the sound of laughter, I finally stopped being the quiet planet and became the supernova. Our story begins in a house in a small town in Ohio, a house with white clapboard siding and a front porch that creaked when you walked on it. To the outside world, we were the perfect American family. Dad, a high school history teacher with a gentle smile and a love for old jazz records. Mom, a nurse who worked the night shift and always smelled faintly of antiseptic and lavender. And his 2 daughters. The elder one, Chloe, was a masterpiece of genetics. She had our mother's blonde hair and our father's blue eyes, a face that could grace magazine covers, and a confidence that could fill a stadium. And then there was me, Amelia. I had our mother's mousy brown hair and our father's shy, awkward demeanor. I was the one who tripped over her own feet, who stammered when she got nervous, who preferred the company of books to people. From the moment Chloe could talk, she knew she was the star. And she made sure everyone else knew it too. I remember being about 6 years old, and I had just finished drawing a picture of our family. It was a clumsy, childish thing with stick figures and a lopsided sun, but I was so proud of it. I ran to show my parents, who were in the kitchen. Mom smiled and said, "Oh, that's lovely, Amelia." Chloe was there, of course, lording over the scene. She snatched the paper from my hand before I could even fully show it. She stared at it for a moment, her nose wrinkled in a sneer. "Look at this," she announced in a sing-song voice. "Amelia drew us, but look at me, I look like a blob, and she made my hair brown. My hair is blonde, you dummy." She threw the drawing back at me and it fluttered to the floor. "You can't even get the colors right, you're so dumb." My parents didn't scold her. Dad just chuckled and said, "Chloe, be nice to your little sister." Mom picked up the drawing, smoothed it out, and handed it back to me with a whispered, "It's a beautiful picture, sweetie. You just need to keep practicing." I remember the hot sting of tears in my eyes. I had been practicing. I had spent an hour on that drawing, and Chloe had just crushed it under her heel like it was nothing. That was the pattern. She'd take my joy, my pride, my fragile sense of self, and she'd break it, and my parents would just tell me to keep practicing, to try harder, to not make such a fuss. It wasn't just small things like drawings, it was everything. When I was 11 and won a spelling bee at school, I came home with a shiny gold ribbon. Chloe was 15. She looked at it, scoffed, and said, "Spelling bee? That's for nerds. I won a regional debate tournament last week. That's real intelligence." She didn't have a ribbon. The tournament was for a participation certificate, but it didn't matter. The way my parents fawned over her story of the debate, how they listened with rapt attention, you'd think she'd won a Nobel Prize. My shiny spelling bee ribbon was forgotten before dinner was served. Her laughter was the soundtrack of my childhood. It was high and bright and often directed at my expense. She'd laugh when I tripped, when I got a bad haircut, when my voice cracked during a school presentation. She had an uncanny ability to find my insecurities and stick a pin in them. She knew what hurt me most. She would whisper it to me when no one else was listening. "You're so ugly, Amelia. You're so weird. All you ever do is red. No one will ever like you." My parents were always too tired, too busy, too distracted by Chloe's vibrant chaos to notice the quiet erosion of my soul. And Chloe was a master of manipulation. In front of them, she could be sweet and charming. She'd offer me a piece of her cake, but then stick her foot out to trip me as I walked by. I'd fall, and she'd say, "Oh, Amelia, you are so clumsy. I was just trying to do something nice for you. My mom would sigh and tell me to be more careful. It was a brilliant, cruel cycle that made me look like the failure and her look like the victim. As the years went by, the dynamic never changed. Chloe was the golden child, and I was the shadow. She excelled at everything that had a spotlight. She was the cheerleading captain, the lead in the school play, the student council president. She was effortlessly popular, surrounded by an entourage of admiring friends. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, bookish one. I was a good student. I got straight A's. But my achievements were quiet ones, done in the library, in my bedroom, in the background. I found solace in my studies. It was the only realm where Chloe couldn't touch me, where my own hard work and intelligence could earn me something that was mine. She never even attempted to be good at school. She'd laugh about it. "I don't need good grades," she'd say, flicking her blonde hair over her shoulder. "I have charisma. I can charm my way into anything. What are you going to do with your A's, huh? Sit in a lab all day with a bunch of other nerds?" She'd make jokes about my non-existent social life. "Hey, Amelia, do you have a date for the prom yet?" "Oh, wait, you'd probably rather read a book about the history of prom than actually go to one." It cut deep. It cut so deep. I'd hide in my room, listening to her laughter echo through the house, and I'd cry. I cried a river of tears over the years. But then I started to do something else. I started to plan. I started to dream. I remember the moment my plan truly began. It was the summer after I graduated high school. I had just received a scholarship to a good, solid state university. Chloe, by this point, was at an elite private college on the East Coast. My parents were proud of my scholarship, but it was a quiet pride. "That's wonderful, Amelia," my dad had said. "You'll be able to get a good teaching job or something." Or something. That fall, my first week at college, I was alone in the massive, impersonal library, surrounded by thousands of books, and I felt a strange, exhilarating sense of peace. No one knew me here. They didn't know I was Chloe's awkward little sister. I could start fresh. I looked up at the towering shelves and I thought, I'm going to be someone. I'm going to achieve things that make Chloe's head spin. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm not just going to survive, I'm going to win. I had a target now, my own sister, and the weapon I was going to use was success. The next few years were a blur of hard work. I was fueled by a quiet, burning fury. I was the first one in the library and the last one to leave. My social life was practically non-existent. I didn't date. I didn't go to parties. I was on a mission. I was studying biotechnology. It was a field I'd always been fascinated by, the idea of manipulating life at a molecular level to solve real-world problems. I threw myself into my coursework with a single-minded obsession. The victories started to come. My first grant, my name on a research paper for the first time, a summer internship at a prestigious lab in Boston. Each one felt like a small knife, deeply satisfying, aimed at the fantasy of myself that Chloe had constructed. It was like building a fortress brick by brick, and with every brick I felt a little stronger, a little more capable. I was no longer the girl who would stammer and hide. I was becoming Amelia, the scientist, the successful one. I never told my family the full extent of my achievements. They knew I was doing well, of course. My mom would talk to me on the phone, and I'd give her a filtered version. "It's going well, Mom. I'm really busy. Getting good grades." My dad would ask me if I was making friends, if I was meeting any nice boys. He always seemed worried that I was too serious, too much of a workaholic. He'd say, "Don't forget to have fun, Amelia. Life isn't just about work." He didn't understand. Fun wasn't the point. The point was proving them wrong. The point was showing Chloe that the little shadow could become a blinding light. Then I developed the formula. It was the culmination of years of work. A new way to synthesize a life-saving compound at a fraction of the cost. It was a breakthrough, the kind that could change the world. The moment the equation clicked in my head, I felt a shockwave of pure, unadulterated triumph. I'd done it. It was mine. I immediately thought of Chloe, of her face when she'd find out. I knew I had to tell her in a way that would maximize the impact. I had to wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment arrived in the form of a gold-embossed invitation on my kitchen counter. It was an invitation to Chloe's graduation party from her prestigious private college. The party was to be held at my parents' house. The theme was a celebration of achievement. A celebration? Of her, it was a massive event. A huge tent was erected in the backyard. A caterer was hired. My mom, who always went overboard for Chloe, was in a frenzy of excitement. My dad, for his part, looked a little tired, but he was happy. This was the big event, the culmination of Chloe's golden life. I knew it was time. This was the stage. This was my moment. I was going to arrive, and I was going to bring the house down. I flew home from Boston. I was anxious, I was terrified, but more than anything, I was ready. I had meticulously planned my outfit. Not flashy or designer like Chloe would wear, but understated and expensive. A tailored emerald green dress that fit me perfectly. It showed I had taste. It showed I had confidence. It wasn't trying to be her. It was being the person I'd become. I arrived at the party a little late. The air was thick with the scent of grilled meat and expensive perfume. There were dozens of people in the yard. I recognized faces from our town, Chloe's friends from high school and college, my parents' friends and colleagues. And there, at the center of it all, was Chloe. She was wearing a dazzling white dress like a mock wedding gown. Her blonde hair was perfect. Her smile was its brightest. She was holding court, and she was magnificent in her self-absorbed glory. I saw my mother first. She was rushing around with a tray of glasses, her face flushed with pride. She spotted me and her smile widened. "Amelia, you made it. You look nice," she said, her eyes darting over my dress with a flicker of surprise. She didn't have time to linger. She gestured to the crowd. "Everyone's here. It's so wonderful for Chloe. She's just been accepted into a top-tier law school." She said it as if she'd just told me the cure for cancer. My dad was talking to a group of men, telling them the same story, his chest puffed out. I felt the familiar sting, the one that said my own achievements, however major, would be relegated to a footnote in the family history. But this time, it was different. The sting was a fuel. It reignited the fire in my belly. I made my way through the crowd, nodding and smiling at familiar faces. "Amelia, how are you? Look how you've grown. Are you still in school, dear?" I gave the same polite answers, watching Chloe from across the yard. She was laughing at something a friend had said. Her laugh was exactly as I remembered it, a weapon that had wounded me so many times. Then she saw me. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. She looked at my dress. She looked at my hair, which I had styled into a sophisticated updo. She looked at my posture, which was straight, not slumped. She saw something different. It was the one thing she couldn't stand. A potential threat to her spotlight. A wicked glint came into her eye, an expression I knew all too well. It was the same look she'd get right before she'd stick her foot out to trip me. "Amelia," she shrieked in a falsely joyful voice that was loud enough to silence the conversations around her. "There you are. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about your big sister's big day." She swept over to me, her heels clicking on the patio stones. She gave me a quick, firm hug that felt more like a body check. Pulling back, she looked me up and down, and her voice, now loud and clear for the entire party to hear, turned pitying and condescending. "Still wearing your hair up like that?" she said, shaking her head with a theatrical sigh. "Oh, Amelia, you always did try so hard, didn't you? But it's okay. Some of us are just more naturally blessed, I suppose." A few people nearby laughed politely. My face flushed with heat, but I held my ground. This was her opening move. She was establishing her dominance. She turned to the crowd, putting her arm around me in a gesture that was meant to look loving but felt like a vice. "You know, I try to help my little sister," she announced to the assembled guests. "I give her advice, I try to get her to come out of her shell, but she just doesn't have the same spark, you know? She's so serious, bookish. All she ever does is read and study. She never has any fun." People murmured in sympathy. I saw my mom look at me with a worried expression. Chloe was playing her greatest hit, the good sister trying to rescue her pathetic loser sibling. She was making me into a charity case in front of everyone I knew, a way to make herself look even more amazing. "But look at me," she continued, twirling her body so her white dress billowed out. "I made it. I'm the first in our family to graduate from an Ivy League school. And I didn't just get a degree, I got accepted to one of the best law schools in the country. It's all about ambition, you know, having the drive." She looked at me pointedly. "What are you doing with your life again, Amelia? Oh, that's right. You're still in school, for something or other." Some of her friends, the popular ones from high school, were now openly snickering. They remembered me. The weird, quiet Amelia. It was like being back in the hallway all over again. My heart was pounding. My face felt like it was on fire. I felt a desperate, panicked urge to just run away, to hide in my room like I always did. Then I looked at her. I saw the smugness in her eyes. She was so sure of her victory. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. The fear, the panic, the old shame, it didn't just go away. It transformed. It hardened into a cold, sharp resolve. I didn't run, I smiled. It was a small, calm smile that looked nothing like the terrified girl she knew. Her eyes flickered with confusion. "You're right, Chloe," I said, my voice unnervingly steady. "You've had a lot of ambition, a lot of drive, and it has served you so well." I then reached into the small, elegant clutch purse I was carrying. My hands were shaking, but my voice was not. I pulled out a single, thick, glossy magazine. It was the most recent issue of Scientific American, the issue where my research was the cover story. I held it up for everyone to see. The crowd went quiet. They were all looking at the magazine. My mother's face went pale with shock. My father was staring, his mouth slightly open. Chloe looked at the magazine, then back at me, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "What is this?" she asked, her voice losing its confident edge. "What are you doing, Amelia?" "It's a little something I've been working on," I said. "It's just the cover story of Scientific American, this month's issue. The journal has a readership of over 1 million people worldwide. Scientists, doctors, researchers. People who actually matter in the world." I turned to the nearest group of people, Chloe's friends, and showed them the cover. They all leaned in, their mouths dropping open as they read the title, "A Revolutionary Synthesis, the Future of Affordable Medicine," and underneath it in bold block letters by Dr. Amelia Hayes. A collective gasp rippled through the party. Chloe's face had drained of all color. "What are you talking about, Dr. Hayes?" she scoffed, her voice now trembling. "That's not you. You're in college. You're a grad student." "I was the lead researcher on a project," I said, my voice ringing clear and true. "I'm the youngest person in the country, maybe in the world, to have my own research published on the cover of this magazine. My formula is going to save lives. It's going to revolutionize the treatment of a disease that kills millions of people every year. My work is being patented. I have speaking engagements at international conferences. I have a job offer from a biotech company for more money than you'll see in your first 10 years as a lawyer." I looked around at the faces in the crowd, and I was no longer looking for approval. I was telling my story, and they were just a part of it. "While Chloe was practicing her speeches to get into law school," I said, my voice laced with quiet contempt, "I was actually saving lives. While she was trying to get into the best school, I was becoming one of the best in my field." I turned back to Chloe. She looked like she was going to be sick. The confident, golden girl was gone. In her place was a pale, terrified woman whose entire foundation had been ripped out from under her. The spotlight was finally, unequivocally on me. I didn't stop. I had been quiet for a lifetime, and I was done. "You always told me I was a loser," I said, my voice thick with all the years of pain. "You called me ugly. You called me weird. You laughed at me for reading. You told me that no one would ever like me. You said I was the shadow, the one who would never amount to anything. You made my life a living hell, Chloe. And the worst part is, you did it while pretending to love me. You did it to make yourself feel better." The tears were falling now, but they were tears of fury and liberation, not of weakness. I was crying, but my voice was strong. "I am not your shadow," I shouted, my voice echoing across the silent yard. "I am my own person, and I am successful. I am brilliant. I am someone. And you, Chloe, you are just a failed performer. You have a nice degree and a nice smile, but you have no substance. You are not a success. You are a bully who has been exposed." My parents were frozen in place. My mother was crying, her hands covering her mouth. My dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. I could see the guilt in their eyes. They had enabled her. They had let her hurt me, and they had never protected me. Chloe was staring at me, her eyes wide and wet. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The confident, loud, brilliant sun had been extinguished. She wasn't a sun. She was just a small, cruel star that had finally burned out under the glare of a real one. I looked at my parents one last time. "I'm not the little girl who just wanted you to see my drawing anymore," I said, my voice softer now, but still trembling with emotion. "I'm not the girl who just wanted you to be proud of her. I'm someone you should have been proud of a long time ago, and you missed it, both of you." With that, I turned and began to walk away, my heels clicking a steady rhythm on the patio stones, leaving behind a party in chaos, a sister in shambles, and a family that would never be the same. I walked towards the driveway, towards my rental car. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. For the first time in my entire life, I wasn't running away from something. I was walking towards my own future. The party was silent. The silence was even louder than the music had been. I passed by a group of guests I didn't recognize. They parted for me like the Red Sea. One woman, an older woman with kind eyes, reached out and touched my arm as I walked by. I stopped. "I'm a biochemist," she whispered, her voice filled with awe and respect. "Your paper is incredible. It's going to change everything. You should be so proud." I looked at her and managed a small, genuine smile. "Thank you," I said. "I am." And it was true. For the first time in my life, I was proud of myself. Not because I had won, not because I had humiliated Chloe, but because I had finally seen myself the way I always should have, as a person of worth. The drive back to Boston was a blur. I was shaking. Adrenaline and years of repressed emotion were flooding my system. The moment I got to my apartment, I leaned against the closed door and slid down to the floor. I sat there for a long time, my back against the wood, staring at the ceiling. The tears came, not the hot, angry tears of before, but a deep, cleansing, cathartic flood. It was like releasing a poison that had been in my veins for my entire life. I hadn't called my parents, I hadn't spoken to anyone, I had just left. That night my phone started to ring. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later it was my father. Another voicemail. Then Chloe. I stared at her name on the screen for a moment. It felt distant, like it belonged to another lifetime. I didn't answer. I listened to the voicemails the next morning. My mother was a babbling mess, full of tears and apologies. "Amelia, sweetheart, we had no idea, you never told us it was so important. I feel so terrible, you have to understand. Chloe is just. She's always been, we're so proud of you. Your father is so proud of you, please call us." My dad's was shorter, more subdued. "Amelia, it's Dad, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I should have protected you, I should have seen. Please come home or call, just let us know you're okay." And then Chloe's, it was the strangest one of all. Her voice was small, quiet. The bravado was completely gone. "Amelia, it's Chloe. I don't know what to say, I guess I was always jealous of you. You were so smart. You had so much potential, and I felt like I had nothing else. I had to make myself feel better. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I didn't know it could get this bad. Please call me, please." I listened to them, and I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. A flicker of not forgiveness, but maybe understanding. They were all a product of our broken family system. My parents, so desperate for the approval of the loud, confident child that they ignored the quiet, brilliant one. Chloe, so insecure beneath all that bravado that she had to tear me down to feel taller. But that understanding didn't erase the years of pain. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. My story, the party, and the reveal must have been the talk of the town. My parents called me again and again. I answered eventually. I told them I was fine. I told them I didn't want to talk about the party. I told them I had a lot of work to do. I didn't go home for a long time. My work became my entire life. It was a safe, predictable place where I was in control. My research took off. My formula was licensed by a major pharmaceutical company. I became a name in the scientific community. I was invited to give talks at prestigious universities. My face, once hidden behind a textbook, was now on conference flyers and in news articles. My relationship with my parents slowly started to heal. It was a fragile, tentative thing. They came to visit me in Boston. My mom cried when she saw my modest but well-kept apartment. She was so proud of me. but I could see the guilt in her eyes. She was trying so hard, and I knew she was sorry. My dad was quieter than usual. He told me he'd framed a copy of my Scientific American cover and put it in his classroom to show his students what was possible. My daughter, the famous scientist, he'd said with a sad smile. But the incident with Chloe had created a wound in me that I wasn't ready to address. My parents would try to bring her up. Chloe was so upset. She's in therapy now. She's trying so hard to be better. She asks about you all the time. I would just nod and change the subject. I didn't want to hear about her. I didn't want to think about her. The girl who had made my life a living nightmare was just a ghost from a past I was trying to leave behind. But the past has a way of catching up with you. It was a year later. I had just finished a major keynote speech at a national biotechnology conference. I was walking through the massive convention center lobby, still buzzing with the energy of the talk, when I saw her. Chloe. She was standing near the entrance, clutching a small purse, looking completely lost. She was wearing a simple navy blue dress, nothing like the flashy, attention-grabbing outfits she used to favor. Her hair was pulled back in a plain ponytail, and her face was bare of makeup. She looked smaller, a lot smaller, and incredibly tired. I stopped in my tracks. My heart lurched. The first feeling was the old familiar one, anger. The second was a strange kind of pity. She was the last person I expected to see, and seeing her like this was a shock. The confident, golden girl was nowhere in sight. She saw me too. Her face went pale. She looked like she wanted to run away, but she didn't. She took a deep breath and walked towards me. Amelia, she said, her voice barely a whisper. She couldn't meet my eyes. I saw your name on the conference schedule. I had to come, I had to see you. I stood there, frozen. The lobby was bustling around us, but we were in our own little bubble of silence and tension. What are you doing here, Chloe? I asked, my voice colder than I intended. She flinched. I know I have no right, she said, her words tumbling out. I know what I did was unforgivable. I know you hate me, and you have every right to. I wanted to tell you something, to your face, not on a voicemail, not through Mom and Dad. She took a shaky breath. I quit law school, she said. I hated it. I was only doing it because I thought it was what I was supposed to do, what everyone expected of me. I was so lost after that night. I'd built my whole life on being the successful one, and it was all a lie. A facade. She looked up at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I went to therapy, a lot of therapy, and I realized that I was just broken. I wasn't happy. I was so insecure and jealous of you. You were so smart and so real. And I was just a hollow shell trying to be something I wasn't. I tore you down to try and fill that void. It was wrong. It was so wrong. She reached out a hand, then pulled it back as if afraid I would bite it. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, she said. I don't deserve it. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry for everything, for all of it, for the drawings, for the spelling bees, for every single time I made you feel small. I was a monster to you, Amelia, and I wish I could take it all back. I stared at her. 1,000 different emotions were swirling inside me. Anger, resentment, a tiny, unwelcome flicker of sympathy. I had dreamed of this moment for so long. The moment she would finally admit I was better, that she was nothing. But seeing her like this, so broken and humble, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt sad. I was silent for a long time. The noises of the convention center faded away. I thought about the little girl I was, crying in her room because her sister said she was ugly and no one would ever like her. I thought about the teenager who hid in the library, afraid to go home. I thought about the young woman who worked so hard to prove herself, fueled by a hatred for her sister. And then I looked at the woman in front of me, the shell of that sister. She was just as much a victim of our family's dysfunction as I was. She was just playing a different role. I don't hate you, Chloe, I said, the words surprising me as I spoke them. I used to. I spent years hating you. It was like an anchor around my neck. But I can't carry that hate anymore. It's too heavy. I took a step closer to her. I'm not going to pretend it's okay, I said. What you did was terrible. It left scars on me that I'm still healing from, and I will never be the same because of it. But I'm also not the same person. I'm stronger now, and a part of that strength came from surviving you. Chloe's tears were flowing freely now. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for listening." "You can thank me by not being that person anymore," I said. "Make something of yourself, not for anyone else, for you. That's the only way to really win." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'm going back to school," she said, "for social work. I want to help people. I want to do something real, something that matters." I nodded. It was a start. A small one, but a start. "I'd better go," she said, sniffing. I've taken up enough of your time." She started to walk away. "Chloe," I called out. She turned. "It might take a long time," I said, "but maybe we can try to be something else, something other than enemies." A faint, watery smile broke through her tears. "I'd like that," she said. "I'd like that more than anything." And then she was gone, swallowed by the crowd of conference attendees. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding. I felt a strange, profound sense of peace. It was over. The war was over. There were no winners and losers. Just two sisters who had finally, after all these years, seen each other for who they really were. The next time I saw my parents, I was the one who brought her up. We were sitting in my apartment, and I told them about the conference. "Chloe came to see me," I said, my voice calm. My mother nearly dropped her teacup. My father's eyebrows shot up. "She did?" my mom asked, her voice full of hope. "She told us she was going to try. She's been so lost, Amelia. She's been so sorry." I nodded. "I know, I think we're going to be okay. It's going to take time, but we're going to try." My mom burst into tears. She hugged me tightly. "My beautiful, brilliant daughters," she sobbed. "My two beautiful girls." My dad just sat there, a quiet tear rolling down his cheek. He cleared his throat. "I'm so proud of you, Amelia," he said. "Not just for the scientist you've become, but for the person you are. That takes real strength, real courage." That night, I went for a walk through the city. The lights were twinkling, the air was crisp, and the world felt full of possibility. I had spent so much of my life looking back, replaying the past, plotting revenge. But now, for the first time, I was looking forward. I was Dr. Amelia Hayes, a renowned scientist. But more importantly, I was Amelia, a woman who had broken the chains of her own past. I had faced my tormentor, and in the process had found myself. The story of my sister's public humiliation was just the catalyst. The real story was the triumph of one person's spirit over cruelty and the discovery of a